3 days had passed since the incident. Maya still sat in her holding cell, but now she had visitors. Dr. Rodriguez came every day to ask her questions about child psychology. He was starting to understand that Maya was much more than a simple maid. "Tell me about your research at the university," Dr. Rodriguez said. He had a recording device and took careful notes. Maya looked tired, but her eyes were bright when she talked about her work. "I studied children who experienced trauma. My specialty was helping kids who heard voices or felt things that others couldn't sense." "What made you think Katie was experiencing something similar?" "The way she described the voices," Maya explained. "She said they were children crying for help. That's not typical of mental illness. It sounded like she was picking up real distress signals." Dr. Rodriguez leaned forward. "You think she was receiving telepathic messages from Zephyrian children?" "I think some humans are more sensitive than we realize," Maya said. Katie was trying to process emotional pain that wasn't even her own. Meanwhile, in the Webb mansion, Katie was getting worse. Without Maya's calm presence, the girl barely slept. She spent hours walking around her room, holding her head and crying about the voices. Marcus Webb watched his daughter through the security cameras. He had fired the other staff members after pressure from his board. Now Katie was alone, except for a nurse who didn't understand what was happening. Marcus picked up his phone and called Dr. Rodriguez. "I need to talk to Maya." "That's not possible right now," Dr. Rodriguez said. "She's still under investigation." "My daughter is falling apart," Marcus said. His voice cracked with emotion. "Whatever Maya was doing, it was helping Katie. Without her, Katie is getting sicker." Dr. Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. "Marcus, I need to tell you something about Maya that might change your mind about everything." That afternoon, Dr. Rodriguez arrived at the Webb mansion with a thick folder. He found Marcus in his study, looking exhausted and worried. "Maya Johnson is not just a maid," Dr. Rodriguez began. "She has a PhD in developmental psychology from one of the best programs in the country." Marcus stared at him. "That's impossible. Why would someone with that education work as domestic help?" Dr. Rodriguez opened the folder and spread out papers on the desk. There were research articles, university transcripts, and letters of recommendation. All had Maya's name on them. Her research funding was cut when the government shifted money to alien contact preparations, Dr. Rodriguez explained. She couldn't find work in her field, so she took whatever job she could get to pay her student loans. Marcus picked up one of the research papers. The title was Therapeutic Intervention Strategies for Children with Unexplained Auditory Experiences. The author was Dr. Maya Johnson. "She wrote this," Marcus said, not quite believing it. "She wrote 12 published papers on child trauma and therapy," Dr. Rodriguez said. "Maya wasn't just randomly helping Katie. Everything she did was based on years of professional training and experience." Marcus felt sick to his stomach. He had employed one of the country's leading child psychologists as a maid and never known it. Worse, he had let his board pressure him into abandoning her when his daughter needed her most. "There's more," Dr. Rodriguez continued. "I've been reviewing the security footage from the past 6 months. Maya wasn't just cleaning Katie's room. Watch this." He showed Marcus video clips on his tablet. In one, Maya was teaching Katie breathing exercises disguised as a cleaning game. In another, she was having Katie organize her art supplies as a way to calm her mind. Every interaction was actually a therapy session. "She was treating Katie without anyone knowing," Marcus whispered. "She was saving your daughter's life," Dr. Rodriguez said. "And you fired her for it." At the Zephyrian Command Center, Sub-Commander Zaralyn was having her own discoveries. She had been studying human behavior patterns and found something disturbing about her own people. She knocked on Ambassador Veltar's door and entered when he called. "Ambassador, I need to discuss my findings about human social structure." Veltar looked up from his reports. "Have you found evidence of their violent nature?" "No," Zaralyn said carefully. "I have found evidence of something we lack." She activated a holographic display showing statistics about both societies. Humans regularly perform actions that benefit individuals outside their family or social group. They sacrifice time, money, and safety for strangers. That is disorder, Veltar said. Proper beings serve their designated function. But Ambassador, Zaralyn continued, what if their way creates better outcomes for their young? She showed him data about human children compared to Zephyrian youth. Human children showed lower rates of mental distress, higher creativity, and better emotional development. Our rigid social structure may be harming our own children, Zaralyn said quietly. The human girl Katie was sensing the psychological pain of our young ones across space. Veltar stood up angrily. You suggest our civilization is flawed. I suggest we might learn from humans instead of condemning them. Back at the police station, Maya was receiving an unexpected visitor. Katie Webb had convinced her father to bring her for a supervised meeting. Katie looked terrible. Her skin was pale, her eyes were red, and she shook constantly. But when she saw Maya, she ran forward and hugged her. I'm so sorry, Katie cried. This is all my fault. Maya held the girl gently. You have nothing to apologize for. You were in pain and needed help. The voices are getting louder, Katie whispered. They won't stop crying. Maya looked at Marcus over Katie's head. She needs proper treatment, and she needs it now. What kind of treatment? Marcus asked. Specialized therapy for empathic sensitivity, Maya said. Katie is picking up emotional distress from the young Zephyrians. Their society doesn't allow children to express fear or sadness, so the feelings build up like pressure in a container. Detective Chen was listening from the doorway. You're saying Katie is somehow connected to alien children? Some humans have unusual sensitivities, Maya explained. When the Zephyrians arrived, Katie started receiving their children's suppressed emotions. She's been trying to process centuries of accumulated psychological trauma. Marcus sat down heavily. How do we help her? First, we need to convince the Zephyrians that what Katie is experiencing is real, Maya said. Then we need to develop new therapy techniques that work for both human and alien psychology. The aliens will never believe this, Detective Chen said. Maya looked determined. Then we'll have to show them. Outside, storm clouds were gathering over New Angeles. The Zephyrian ship still circled overhead, their lights reflecting off the dark clouds. Inside those ships, alien leaders were making decisions about humanity's future. They didn't know that a black woman sitting in a human jail cell was about to change everything they thought they knew about intelligence, society, and the true meaning of civilization. Katie fell asleep in Maya's arms for the first time in 3 days. The voices in her head were quieter when Maya was near. Marcus watched his daughter finally rest and realized he had to make the hardest decision of his life. He could protect his business and social standing by keeping Maya away from his family. Or he could trust the woman who had already saved his daughter once and might be the key to saving both human and alien children. The choice would determine not just Katie's future, but the future of 2 entire civilizations. The Zephyrian command ship landed in the courtyard of the Webb mansion with a sound like thunder. Maya watched from Katie's bedroom window as the massive vessel settled on the grass, its blue lights casting strange shadows across the garden. Are you scared? Katie asked. She held Maya's hand tightly. A little, Maya admitted. But mostly I'm hopeful. Marcus Webb stood beside them, still amazed by everything that had happened. A week ago you were my maid. Now you're about to negotiate with alien commanders. I'm still the same person, Maya said quietly. I just want to help children who are hurting. The ship's doors opened with a hiss of escaping air. High Commander Thexrin walked out first, followed by Ambassador Veltar and Sub-Commander Zaralyn. The 3 aliens moved across the lawn with purpose, their blue skin glowing in the afternoon sunlight. Dr. Rodriguez met them at the front door. Commander, thank you for coming. Maya Johnson is ready to speak with you. This human has affected our crew in ways we do not understand, Thexrin said. His voice was deep and serious. We must know how. They gathered in Marcus Webb's living room. The aliens sat stiffly on chairs that were too small for their tall frames. Maya sat across from them with Katie beside her. Dr. Rodriguez and Marcus completed the circle. Explain what you did to our people, Thexrin demanded. Our young crew members report feeling emotions they have never experienced before. Maya looked at Katie, who nodded encouragingly. Katie has been receiving telepathic distress signals from your children. When I taught her how to send comfort back, your young people felt it. Impossible, Ambassador Veltar said. Our children do not send distress signals. They are properly trained. Zara Lynn leaned forward. Commander, I believe Maya speaks the truth. My research shows concerning patterns in our youth psychological data. What patterns? Thexran asked. Zara Lynn activated a small device that projected holographic charts into the air. Depression, anxiety, and emotional disorders among our young have increased dramatically over the past centuries. We have been treating these as discipline problems, not medical conditions. Maya studied the charts with professional interest. Your social structure doesn't allow children to express normal emotions like fear, sadness, or confusion. Correct? Veltar said proudly. Emotional expression is seen as weakness. But emotions don't disappear just because you forbid them, Maya explained. They build up inside until they either explode or leak out in other ways. Katie spoke up suddenly. The voices I heard were crying because they couldn't cry in real life. The alien stared at the teenage girl. Thexren's expression was unreadable. You claim to have heard our children's thoughts, he said. Not thoughts exactly, Katie said. Feelings, pain, loneliness, fear. Emotions so strong they traveled across space looking for someone who would listen. Maya put her arm around Katie, protectively. Some humans are born with unusual sensitivity to emotional distress. Katie was trying to process psychological trauma from hundreds of alien children. This is why she was exhibiting symptoms of mental breakdown, Dr. Rodriguez added. She was experiencing more emotional pain than any one person could handle. Zara Lynn looked at her commanders with growing excitement. This explains everything. The human girl was serving as an emotional outlet for our suppressed youth. And when Maya taught her how to send comfort back, Marcus said, Katie became a source of healing instead of just a receiver of pain. Thexaran was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. In our society, emotional healing is not recognized as a necessary function. In our society, it's one of the most important functions, Maya said gently. Children who don't receive emotional support grow up to be adults who can't provide it to the next generation. You suggest our entire civilization is emotionally damaged, Veltar said with anger. I suggest your civilization has amazing strengths, but might benefit from learning new approaches to emotional wellness, Maya replied diplomatically. Katie suddenly grabbed Maya's hand. They're trying to talk to me again. Maya nodded. Show the commanders what you can do. Katie closed her eyes and concentrated. After a moment, she began to speak in a voice that sounded different, younger. Please, help us, she said. We are so lonely. We cannot tell our parents we are afraid. We cannot ask for comfort when we hurt. We must always be strong and perfect. The three Zephyrian commanders stared in shock. Katie's voice had taken on the accent and speech patterns of their own language. We pretend to be happy, Katie continued, still speaking in the alien style. But inside we are breaking. We dream of warmth and acceptance that we have never known. Tears began rolling down Zara Lynn's face. In Zephyrian society, adult tears were forbidden, but she couldn't stop them. Those are our children, she whispered. Those are exactly our children. Katie opened her eyes and looked at the aliens with compassion. They just want someone to tell them it's okay to feel scared sometimes. Maya turned to the commanders. Your young people are sending out a cry for help that's so strong it's crossing interstellar space. Katie isn't the only sensitive human who's been affected. Children all over Earth have been having nightmares and anxiety attacks since your ships arrived. You're saying our children's emotional distress is affecting human children, Thexran said slowly. I'm saying pain calls to pain, Maya replied, and healing calls to healing. She stood up and faced the alien leaders directly. I can teach you how to help your children, but you'll have to be willing to change some fundamental aspects of your society. What kind of changes? Thexran asked. You'll have to allow emotional expression. You'll have to train your adults in psychological support techniques. You'll Have to accept that mental health is just as important as physical health. Veltar stood up angrily. You ask us to abandon our entire social structure. I ask you to expand it, Maya said calmly. Keep your strengths but add new capabilities. Zara Lynn was still crying, but now she was also smiling. Commander, I volunteer to be the first to learn these human techniques. Thexran looked at his subordinate with surprise. You would submit to training from a human. I would submit to training from someone who can heal our children, Zara Lynn said firmly. Katie stood up and walked over to Zara Lynn. Without fear, she reached out and took the alien's large blue hand in her small human one. You don't have to submit to anything, Katie said. We can learn together. The moment Katie touched Zara Lynn, every young Zephyrian in the fleet above them felt a wave of acceptance and hope. For the first time in their lives, they experienced what it felt like to be truly understood. Alarms began sounding again in the alien ships, but this time, the young crew members didn't want the feeling to end. They began gathering in groups, talking about emotions they had never been allowed to discuss. Thexran received urgent communications from his ship. Commander, the young crew members are exhibiting unprecedented behavior. They are expressing feelings openly and comforting each other. Maya looked at the High Commander steadily. Your children are finally being allowed to heal. The question is whether you'll help them or try to stop them. Thexran stared at Katie and Zara Lynn, still holding hands, human and alien united in understanding. He was witnessing something that challenged everything he thought he knew about civilization and strength. The most powerful decision in galactic history was about to be made by an alien commander who had never expected to learn about love from a species he had considered primitive. Marcus Webb made his decision that night. He called an emergency board meeting and faced the angry executives in his conference room. The city lights sparkled below them as he prepared to risk everything. I'm not firing Maya Johnson, Marcus announced. In fact, I'm promoting her. The room exploded with angry voices. Richard Stone slammed his hand on the table. You'll destroy this company and humanity's future with the aliens. Maya has a doctorate in child psychology, Marcus said firmly. She's been treating my daughter for months without me even knowing it. Katie is better when Maya is around. That's impossible, another board member said. She's just a maid. Marcus threw Maya's research papers on the table. Read these. Maya Johnson is one of the leading experts on child trauma in the country. We've been employing a genius and treating her like a servant. The board members looked at the papers with shock. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Even if this is true, Stone said, the aliens still think she's violent. They want her punished. Then we'll prove them wrong, Marcus said. I'm creating a new division of the company focused on interspecies psychology. Maya will head it. The board will vote you out, Stone threatened. Marcus smiled coldly. Try it. I still own 51% of this company. The next morning, Maya was released from jail. Marcus came to pick her up personally, driving his own car instead of sending a driver. Maya was surprised to see him. I owe you an apology, Marcus said as they drove through the city. I should have trusted you from the beginning. You were protecting your family and your business, Maya replied. I understand. No, you don't, Marcus said. I was protecting my reputation. There's a difference. He told her about his decision to promote her and create a new research division. Maya listened quietly, processing this unexpected change. Why now? She asked. Because Katie needs you, Marcus said. And I think the aliens might need you too. At the Zephyrian Command Center, Subcommander Zara Lynn was preparing for the most important presentation of her career. She had spent days studying human behavior and had reached a shocking conclusion. Ambassador Veltar and the other senior officers sat around a circular table. Holographic displays showed data from their observations of Earth. I have completed my analysis of the Maya Johnson incident, Zara Lynn began. My findings challenge our fundamental understanding of both human and Zephyrian society. Present. Your conclusions, High Commander Thexran said. He had arrived from the main fleet to oversee the final decision about humanity. Zara Lynn activated her presentation. Maya Johnson is not a servant. She is a highly educated specialist in child psychology, who was working below her qualifications due to economic circumstances. The senior officers looked confused. In Zephyrian society, education determined social position permanently. Furthermore, Zara Lynn continued, her actions toward Katie Webb were not violent. They were sophisticated therapeutic interventions designed to prevent self-harm. Explain, Thexren demanded. Katie Webb has been experiencing telepathic contact with Zephyrian children, Zara Lynn said. The room went silent. Our young ones have been sending distress signals across space, and sensitive humans like Katie have been receiving them. Ambassador Veltar stood up angrily. Impossible. Our children are properly disciplined and content. Are they? Zara Lynn asked. She displayed medical records from Zephyrian youth centers. Depression rates among our young have increased 300% over the last century. Suicide attempts are at record levels. Our rigid social structure is causing massive psychological damage. The room was dead quiet. Discussing the well-being of young Zephyrians was almost forbidden in their society. You suggest we have failed our children, Thexren said slowly. I suggest we have never learned how to help them, Zara Lynn replied. But humans have. Meanwhile, at the Webb mansion, Maya was working with Katie in a way no one had ever seen before. Instead of hiding Katie's sensitivity, Maya was teaching her how to use it properly. The voices you hear are real children who need help, Maya explained. You're not sick, you're gifted. Katie sat cross-legged on her bed, breathing slowly like Maya had taught her. But why can I hear them when no one else can? Some people are born with stronger emotional sensitivity, Maya said. It's like having better hearing or better eyesight, but for feelings. Dr. Rodriguez watched from the doorway. He was documenting everything for his report to the government and the aliens. Can you teach me to help them? Katie asked. First we help you, Maya said. Then we figure out how to help them. Over the next few hours, Maya guided Katie through exercises designed to separate her own emotions from the alien ones she was receiving. Slowly, Katie began to feel more like herself. The crying is getting quieter, Katie said with relief. Good, Maya said. Now try to send them a message back. Think peaceful, calming thoughts and direct them toward the voices. Katie closed her eyes and concentrated. Thousands of miles above them in the Zephyrian ships, something unprecedented happened. Young Zephyrian crew members suddenly felt a wave of calm and hope wash over them. For the first time in their lives, they experienced unconditional acceptance and emotional warmth. Zara Lynn felt it too. She was in the middle of her presentation when the feeling hit her. She stopped speaking and put her hand to her chest. What is wrong? Thexren asked. I feel, Zara Lynn whispered. Peaceful. The sensation was so foreign to Zephyrian experience that several officers thought they were under attack. Alarms began to sound throughout the ship. But the young crew, members didn't want the feeling to stop. They gathered in groups sharing this new experience of emotional connection and support. Back at the Webb mansion, Katie opened her eyes with wonder. I think they felt it. The crying stopped. Maya smiled. You just did something that could change both our species. Dr. Rodriguez stepped into the room. Maya, the Zephyrians are requesting an immediate meeting with you. They want to arrest? Me again, Maya said. No, Dr. Rodriguez said, looking amazed. They want to learn from you. Marcus Webb appeared behind Dr. Rodriguez. The alien commander is coming here personally. He wants to understand what you did to their people. Maya looked at Katie, who was smiling for the first time in months. The girl was no longer tormented by voices she couldn't understand. Instead, she was discovering a gift that could bridge the gap between two very different civilizations. Are you ready for this? Marcus asked Maya. Maya stood up and straightened her simple clothes. She was still just a woman from Detroit who had been working as a maid a week ago. But she was also a doctor, a healer, and possibly the key to saving both human and alien children. I've been ready my whole life, she said. Outside, the Zephyrian command ship was descending toward the Webb mansion. High Commander Thexren was coming to meet the human who had done the impossible. She had healed wounds in Zephyrian hearts that they didn't even know existed. The most important conversation in the history of both species was about to begin. Maya Johnson walked through the glass doors of the Webb mansion like she did every morning for the past 6 months. The huge building sat high above New Angeles, its windows showing the busy city below. Maya carried her cleaning supplies and lunch bag, moving quietly through the marble halls. She had worked as a maid for rich families before, but none as wealthy as Marcus Webb. The billionaire owned half the technology companies in the city. His money came from building computers that could talk to alien ships. 6 months ago, strange beings called Zephyrians had come to Earth. They looked like tall humans with blue skin and no hair. The aliens wanted to see if humans could join their group of planets. Maya found Katie Webb sitting in her room, staring out the window. The 16-year-old girl had been acting strange since the aliens arrived. She barely ate, hardly slept, and sometimes screamed at night. Her father was always too busy with meetings to notice. "Good morning, Katie," Maya said softly. She set down her supplies and looked at the girl with kind eyes. "How are you feeling today?" Katie turned around. Her face was pale and her eyes were red from crying. "They are still talking to me," she whispered. "The voices in my head won't stop." Maya sat down next to Katie on the bed. She had heard the girl talk about voices before. The doctor said it was stress from all the changes in the world. Maya thought it might be something else. "Tell me about the voices," Maya said. "What do they say?" "They are crying," Katie said. "Young voices like children. They sound so sad and scared. They want help, but no one listens to them." Maya felt her heart break a little. She had studied child psychology in college before her life changed. She knew Katie was not crazy. The girl was sensitive and picking up something real. A loud noise came from downstairs. They could hear Marcus Webb shouting at someone on his phone. He was angry about something with the alien meeting today. Katie suddenly stood up and grabbed a small device from her desk. It was one of her father's prototype communicators worth millions of dollars. She held it above her head like she wanted to throw it. "I have to make them stop," Katie said. Her voice sounded different now, wild and desperate. "If I break this, maybe the voices will go away." Maya stood up quickly. She knew Katie was having some kind of breakdown. The girl's hands were shaking and she was breathing fast. Maya had seen this before in her psychology work. "Katie, put that down," Maya said calmly. "Let's talk about this." "No, more talking," Katie shouted. "I can't take it anymore." She moved the device closer to the floor, ready to smash it. Maya made a quick decision. She stepped forward and grabbed Katie's wrist gently but firmly. The girl was strong, but Maya was stronger. She carefully took the device away and set it on the desk. Katie started crying and tried to hit herself in the head. "Make them stop. Make them stop," she kept saying. Maya knew she had to protect Katie from hurting herself. She looked around the room and saw some soft rope that Katie used for crafts. Moving quickly, Maya wrapped the rope around Katie's wrists and ankles, not tight enough to hurt but secure enough to keep her safe. "I know you're scared," Maya said as she worked, "but hurting yourself won't help. Trust me, I want to help you." Katie stopped fighting and collapsed on the bed, still crying, but calmer. Maya sat beside her and spoke in a soft voice about peaceful things like flowers and music. What Maya did not know was that today's alien meeting was being broadcast live. Marcus Webb had cameras all over his house for security. One of those cameras was pointing at Katie's room. The camera showed Maya, a black woman, tying up Katie, a white girl from a rich family. To people watching who did not know the full story, it looked terrible. The video signal got mixed up with the live broadcast going to the Zephyrian ships in space. Millions of aliens saw a human servant apparently attacking her master's child. 20 minutes later, Marcus Webb came home early from his meeting. He had gotten emergency calls about something happening at his house. He ran upstairs and found Maya sitting next to Katie, who was sleeping peacefully on the bed. "What happened here?" Marcus demanded. He saw the ropes and his face turned red, with anger. Maya explained everything calmly. She told him about Katie's voices, her breakdown, and how she had protected the girl and the expensive device. Before Marcus could respond, They heard cars outside. Through the window, they could see news trucks and police cars. Strange blue lights in the sky showed that Zephyrian ships were landing nearby. "Sir," called a voice from downstairs. "The aliens are here. They want to talk to you about your maid." Marcus looked at Maya with confusion and fear. He did not understand what was happening. Maya had saved his daughter and his property, but somehow the whole world seemed angry about it. The front door opened and heavy footsteps came up the stairs. 3 tall Zephyrians walked into the room, followed by police officers and reporters. The lead alien had golden marks on his blue skin that showed he was important. He looked at Maya with cold eyes. "Human," the alien said in perfect English. "You have committed violence against a child of higher status. This shows your species cannot control their violent instincts." Maya stood up slowly. She was not afraid, just tired. She had spent her life helping people, and now she was being called violent for saving a girl. "I protected her," Maya said simply. "She was going to hurt herself." The alien pointed a device at Maya that glowed with blue light. "Your thoughts will be examined. The Confederation will decide if humans are too dangerous to join our alliance." Outside, crowds of people were gathering. Some supported Maya, saying she was a hero. Others were angry, saying she had embarrassed humanity in front of the aliens. Marcus Webb stood in his daughter's room, looking at the woman who had saved Katie's life. He had to make a choice that would affect not just his family, but all of humanity's future among the stars. The police station in New Angeles had never seen anything like this before. Detective Lisa Chen sat across from Maya Johnson in a small white room. Maya looked tired but calm. She had been answering questions for 3 hours. "Tell me again what happened," Detective Chen said. She was a kind woman who had worked with families for many years. "Why did you tie up Katie Webb?" Maya took a deep breath. "The girl was having a breakdown. She was going to smash her father's equipment and hurt herself. I had to keep her safe." At the same time, in another room, Dr. Alex Rodriguez was studying video footage with 2 Zephyrian observers. The aliens watched the screen with serious faces. "Your species shows concerning behavior patterns," said Ambassador Veltar. His blue skin seemed to glow under the bright lights. "A servant attacking her master's child is unacceptable in civilized society." Dr. Rodriguez was an expert in alien cultures. He had been working with the Zephyrians since they arrived. "Ambassador, I think there might be a misunderstanding here." The second alien, Sub-Commander Zara Lynn, leaned forward. She was younger than the ambassador and seemed more curious than angry. "Explain this misunderstanding, human. In our culture, social status does not determine who can help who," Dr. Rodriguez said carefully. Maya was doing her job, which includes protecting Katie's well-being. Ambassador Veltar made a sound like a growl. "In the Confederation, lower beings do not touch higher beings without permission. This Maya creature violated fundamental social laws." Meanwhile, across the city, Marcus Webb was in his office surrounded by angry board members. His company's stock price had dropped 20% since the video went public. "You have to fire her immediately," said board member Richard Stone, "and press charges. The aliens think we can't control our people." Marcus looked out his window at the protesters below. Some held signs saying "Free Maya," while others said "Punish the maid." His phone had been ringing all day with reporters wanting statements. "She saved my daughter," Marcus said quietly. "Your daughter is fine," Stone replied. "But our relationship with the Confederation is not. Fire the maid or we'll remove you as CEO." Back at the police station, Maya was facing her most difficult interrogation yet. The Zephyrians had brought a device that could read human thoughts. Sub-Commander Zara Lynn operated the strange machine while Ambassador Veltar watched. "This will show us your true intentions," Zara Lynn said. She placed a metal headband on Maya's forehead. The device hummed and glowed blue. Maya felt a strange tingling in her mind. It was not painful, just odd, like someone was looking through her memories. The Zephyrians watched a screen that showed Maya's thoughts and feelings from that morning. They saw her genuine concern for Katie. They watched her make the difficult decision to restrain the girl. They felt her fear and sadness as Katie cried. Sub-Commander Zara Lynn looked confused. I do not understand. She was truly trying to help the child. Impossible, Ambassador Veltar said. Lower status beings do not sacrifice for higher status beings. It goes against natural order. Detective Chen was getting frustrated. She had seen the mind-reading results and knew Maya was innocent. Why is this so hard for you to believe? People help each other all the time. Not in our society, Zara Lynn said softly. Each social level serves their function. There is no crossing between them. Dr. Rodriguez entered the room with a thick file. I've been researching Maya's background. You need to see this. The file showed Maya's education history. She had a doctorate degree in child psychology from the University of Michigan. She had published research papers on helping traumatized children. She had worked at hospitals and schools before taking the job as a maid. Why would someone with these qualifications work as domestic help? Ambassador Veltar asked. Detective Chen looked sad. Her research funding was cut last year. She needed work to pay her student loans. Cleaning jobs were all she could find. The Zephyrians stared at the papers. In their society, education determined social status for life. The idea of a highly educated person doing manual labor was impossible to understand. Your society is chaos, Ambassador Veltar said. How can we trust beings who do not follow proper social order? While the aliens debated, Katie Webb was waking up in her bedroom. Her father sat beside her, holding her hand. She looked around the room and remembered what had happened. Where is Maya? Katie asked. She's at the police station, Marcus said. The aliens think she hurt you. Katie sat up quickly. She saved me, Dad. I was going to break your machine and hurt myself. Maya stopped me. I know, Marcus said. But the whole world saw it differently. Katie started crying again. It's my fault. Maya is in trouble because of me. Outside Katie's window, Zephyrian ships circled the city. Their lights cast strange shadows on the buildings below. The aliens were deciding whether humans were worthy of joining their confederation of planets. In the Zephyrian command ship, High Commander Thexrin was reviewing the day's events. He was old and experienced, having dealt with many different species over the centuries. What do you make of this incident? He asked his advisors. It shows human unpredictability, one advisor said. They do not follow social rules properly. Or, said another, it shows they have capabilities we do not understand. High Commander Thexran studied the video footage again. He watched Maya's careful movements as she protected Katie. He saw the gentleness in her actions even during a crisis. Send more observers, he decided. I want to understand these humans better before we make our final decision. Back at the police station, Maya was finally allowed to rest. She sat alone in a cell, not because she was a criminal, but for her own protection. Angry crowds outside wanted to blame her for endangering Earth's relationship with the aliens. Detective Chen brought her a cup of coffee and sat down. How are you holding up? I'm worried about Katie, Maya said. She needs help that her father doesn't understand how to give. What kind of help? Maya was quiet for a moment. The voices she hears are real. I think she's picking up something. From the alien children. Their society doesn't allow young ones to express emotions or ask for help. Detective Chen looked surprised. You think Katie is telepathically connected to alien children? I've seen cases like this before, Maya said. Some humans are more sensitive to mental distress than others. Katie is trying to process trauma. That isn't even hers. Outside, the sun was setting over New Angeles. Tomorrow would bring more questions, more investigations, and more decisions that would shape the future of both humans and aliens. Maya closed her eyes and hoped that somehow, the truth would be enough to set things right. High Commander Thexran stood in the Webb family living room, listening to the urgent reports coming from his ship. His young crew members were doing something that had never happened in Zephyrian history. They were talking about their feelings. Commander, came a voice through his communication device. The young ones are gathering in groups. They are discussing fear, loneliness, and sadness. Some are crying. Should we stop them? Thexaran looked at Katie and Zaralyn, still holding hands. The human girl looked so small next to the tall alien, but somehow she seemed to be giving Zaralyn strength. No, Thexaran said into his communicator. Let them continue. Ambassador Veltar stared at his commander in shock. Sir, this goes against all our traditions. Perhaps our traditions are incomplete, Thexaran said quietly. Maya stepped forward. Commander, would you allow me to visit your ship? I'd like to meet some of your young crew members. Absolutely not, Veltar said quickly. Humans are not permitted on our vessels, but Zaralyn spoke up. Commander, I believe this human could help us understand what is happening to our people. Thexaran was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he activated his communicator. Prepare to receive human guests. An hour later, Maya, Katie, Dr. Rodriguez, and Marcus Webb were walking through the corridors of a Zephyrian ship. The walls glowed with soft blue light, and everything was perfectly clean and organized. Young Zephyrian crew members watched them pass with curious eyes. Maya noticed how they stood rigidly at attention, but their faces showed emotions that seemed new and confusing to them. They entered a large room where about 30 young Zephyrians had gathered. The aliens looked to be teenagers or young adults, though it was hard to tell their exact ages. These are our junior officers, Zaralyn explained. They perform technical duties under senior supervision. Maya looked around the room. Every young face showed signs of stress and exhaustion. Their posture was perfect, but their eyes were sad. Hello, Maya said simply. My name is Maya. I understand you've been feeling some unusual emotions lately. One young Zephyrian stepped forward hesitantly. Human, we do not understand what is happening to us. We feel things we have no words for. Can you describe these feelings? Maya asked gently. Warmth, the young alien said. Comfort, like being protected by someone who cares about our well-being. Another spoke up. For the first time, we felt like it was acceptable to be afraid sometimes. Maya nodded. Those are normal, healthy emotions. Every intelligent being experiences them. Not us, a third young Zephyrian said. We are taught from birth that fear is weakness, sadness is failure, and asking for help is shameful. Katie stepped forward. But you've been asking for help. That's what I've been hearing in my head. You've been crying out for someone to understand your pain. The young aliens looked at each other with amazement. They had never imagined that their inner turmoil could be felt by anyone else. You heard us, one whispered. I heard all of you, Katie said. Your loneliness, your fear, your need for someone to tell you that you're good enough just as you are. Maya watched as the young Zephyrians began to react to Katie's words. Some started crying, others reached out to touch each other for comfort. These simple actions would have been forbidden in their society just hours ago. Zaralyn watched with wonder. I have never seen our young ones express emotion so freely. Because they've never been allowed to, Maya said. Commander Thexaran, may I ask how children are raised in your society? The High Commander looked uncomfortable. Young Zephyrians are trained from birth to suppress emotional responses. They learn to focus only on duty and function. What happens if a child shows fear or sadness? Dr. Rodriguez asked. They are corrected. Through isolation and additional training, Thexaran replied. Maya felt her heart break. So when children are at their most vulnerable, you isolate them further. It builds strength, Veltar said defensively. It builds trauma, Maya corrected. Commander, your young people are among the most psychologically wounded individuals I've ever encountered. The young Zephyrians listened to this conversation with growing hope. Someone finally understood their pain and was willing to name it. Can you help us? One asked Maya directly. Before Maya could answer, Veltar stepped forward angrily. These humans seek to weaken our people with emotional indulgence. Emotional health is not indulgence, Maya said firmly. It's the foundation of a strong society. Katie suddenly grabbed Maya's arm. Something's happening. She was right. More young Zephyrians were entering the room. Word had spread throughout the ship that humans were here who understood their hidden pain. Within minutes, the room was packed with young aliens all looking at Maya with hope and desperation. "Please," one said, "teach us how to heal." Maya looked around the crowded room. These young beings had spent their entire lives carrying emotional burdens they were never allowed to share. Now they were finally finding their voices. "The first step," Maya said, "is understanding that what you feel is normal and valid." She began leading them through simple exercises, deep breathing to calm anxiety, sharing fears without judgment, offering comfort to others who were struggling. The young Zephyrians took to these techniques like they had been waiting their whole lives for permission to be human. They formed small groups, talking quietly about experiences they had never shared before. Thexran watched in amazement as his young crew members began to relax for the first time since he had known them. Their rigid posture softened. Their faces showed peace instead of constant stress. "How is this possible?" he asked Maya. "They were already strong," Maya explained. "They just needed to learn that strength includes the ability to process emotion healthily." Marcus Webb had been recording everything on his tablet. "Maya, the implications of this are enormous. If human psychology can help alien civilizations." "It's not about humans helping aliens," Maya said. "It's about intelligence helping intelligence. Pain is universal, and so is the capacity for healing." Zara Lynn was working with a group of young Zephyrians, learning Maya's techniques and helping translate them for alien understanding. She looked up with tears still streaming down her face. "Maya," she said, "I need to ask you something that may sound strange." "What is it?" "Could you teach me how to be the kind of adult these young ones needed when they were children?" Maya smiled. "That's not strange at all. That's exactly what we need to do." As the session continued, something beautiful began happening. The young Zephyrians started singing. It was a traditional work song from their culture, but now they sang it with emotion and joy instead of mechanical precision. The sound carried throughout the ship, reaching the ears of senior officers who had never heard their people express such genuine happiness. Katie sat in the middle of the room, surrounded by young aliens who were finally learning that they were not alone. The voices in her head had transformed from cries of pain into songs of hope. Maya looked around the room and realized she was witnessing the birth of something new, the first generation of emotionally healthy Zephyrians in centuries. The healing had begun, and it would change both civilizations forever. 6 months later, the Grand Assembly of the Galactic Confederation gathered for the most important meeting in their recorded history. Representatives from 300 worlds filled the massive amphitheater orbiting the neutral star system of Proxima Centauri. They had come to witness the results of what history would call the Great Healing Trial. Maya Johnson stood at the center of the amphitheater, no longer wearing simple clothes but dressed in the formal robes of a galactic psychological ambassador. Beside her stood Katie Webb, now 17 and serving as the first human-alien emotional liaison. The crowd buzzed with anticipation and skepticism. Many representatives still believed that emotional expression was a sign of weakness that would lead to societal collapse. High Commander Thexran of the Zephyrian Confederation took the podium first. "Honorable delegates, 6 months ago we began an unprecedented experiment. Today we present the results." Holographic displays filled the air above the assembly, showing data from every participating species. The numbers were staggering. Productivity among young Zephyrians has increased 60%, Thexran announced. Innovation in technology and science has improved by 40%. Most remarkably, disciplinary problems have decreased by 75%. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the crowd. These were the opposite of the expected results. Admiral Corks then of the Hegemony Fleet spoke next. "Our young engineers and scientists have shown similar improvements, but more importantly, they report higher satisfaction with their work and stronger loyalty to the fleet." General Vexmar of the warrior clans stepped forward. His massive frame and scarred appearance had intimidated countless enemies across the galaxy, but when he spoke his voice was gentle. "My son completed his military training last month," he said. Not only did he graduate at the top of his class, but he did so without the psychological damage that has marked warrior training for generations. The general paused and looked directly at Maya. This human taught my son that acknowledging fear makes him braver, not weaker, that understanding his emotions gives him better control in battle, that caring for his fellow warriors makes him a stronger leader. This is all very impressive, interrupted Senator Krillnex of the Trade Federation. But we need concrete demonstrations, not just statistics. Maya nodded. Of course, Senator. Katie, would you help us show what we've accomplished? Katie stepped forward and closed her eyes. Her sensitivity had grown stronger over the months, and now she could connect with young beings across vast distances. I'm reaching out to the youth representatives from each species, Katie announced. They're going to demonstrate the emotional integration techniques they've learned. Suddenly, young delegates from dozens of different alien species stood up. Throughout the amphitheater, they began to speak in unison, their voices harmonizing despite their different languages and vocal structures. We are the children of the stars, they said. We carry the hopes of our peoples, but we no longer carry their hidden pain. The young Zephyrian delegate continued alone. We have learned that strength includes the wisdom to feel fear and act with courage anyway. A young member of the warrior clans spoke next. We have learned that protecting others begins with understanding our own hearts. A representative from the academic collective added, we have learned that true knowledge includes emotional intelligence, not just factual data. One by one, young beings from species across the galaxy shared what they had learned from Maya's teachings. They spoke of discovering inner strength they never knew they had, of forming deeper bonds with their peers, of finding purpose beyond mere duty. But the most stunning moment came when Katie opened her connection fully. Every young being in the amphitheater suddenly felt what the others were feeling. Humans, Zephyrians, warriors, academics, and dozens of other species shared a moment of complete emotional understanding. The adult delegates watched in amazement as their young representatives reached across species barriers to comfort, encourage, and support each other. Beings who had been taught that other species were competitors or enemies were treating each other like family. This is impossible, whispered Representative Quaxim of the Isolationist Alliance. Different species cannot form such bonds. They can when they're allowed to heal together, Maya said. She gestured to Katie, who was now surrounded by young aliens from across the galaxy. They were holding hands, tentacles, claws, and appendages in a circle of connection that transcended every boundary their civilizations had created. What you're seeing, Maya continued, is the natural result when intelligent beings are taught emotional health instead of emotional suppression. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward with additional data. Crime rates among participating youth have dropped to near zero. Mental health issues have decreased by 80%. Academic and military performance have reached record levels. But most importantly, Maya added, these young people report being genuinely happy for the first time in their lives. The amphitheater erupted in debate. Some delegates argued that such changes were too dramatic to be real. Others worried about the long-term effects on military readiness and social order. High Commander Thexeron called for silence. There is one more demonstration we must show you. He activated a communication link to the Zephyrian homeworld. The image that appeared stunned the assembly into complete silence. On the screen, they could see Zephyrian adults and children working together on a construction project. But these weren't the rigid, emotionless interactions typical of Zephyrian society. The adults were teaching with patience and kindness. The children were asking questions without fear. Everyone was smiling. This is our capital city, Thexeron said. The changes have spread beyond just the young people who participated in the trial. Entire families are learning emotional health techniques. Similar images appeared from other participating worlds. Warrior clan families sharing meals where young ones could speak freely. Academic collective members collaborating with joy instead of competitive tension. Hegemony fleet crews working with enthusiasm rather than mere compliance. Senator Krillnex stood up, his mechanical voice betraying emotion for the first time in decades. You're asking us to believe that emotional expression improves everything. I'm asking you to believe that emotional health is the foundation upon which all other strengths are built, Maya replied. Katie opened her eyes and looked directly at the senator. Your young engineers have been sending out distress signals for years. They're brilliant, but they're miserable. They could create amazing things if they weren't spending all their energy just trying to survive emotionally. The senator was quiet for a long moment. You can sense the pain of our young ones across this distance. The pain of suppressed intelligence and creativity calls out across space, Katie said. But so does the joy of beings who are finally allowed to flourish. The debate continued for hours, but gradually the evidence became overwhelming. Every measurement of success improved when emotional health was prioritized. Every civilization that had participated in the trial was showing unprecedented levels of innovation, cooperation, and contentment. Finally, the supreme arbitrator of the Galactic Confederation called for a vote. All in favor of adopting human emotional health techniques as standard practice throughout the Confederation. The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. 247 civilizations voted to begin the Great Healing. Only 53 voted to maintain traditional emotional suppression methods. As the results were announced, something extraordinary happened. The young delegates who had formed connections during Katie's demonstration began to sing. Each species contributed their traditional harmonies, creating a song that had never been heard before. The music filled the amphitheater with pure joy and hope. Adult delegates from species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves standing together, moved by the sound of their children singing in harmony. Maya looked around the amphitheater and realized what she was witnessing. The image that had started this whole journey, a black woman restraining a white girl, had evolved into something far greater. Now beings from across the galaxy were choosing to restrain their old prejudices and embrace a new way of living. Katie took Maya's hand as the singing continued. What happens now? She asked. Maya smiled, thinking of all the young beings across the galaxy who would now grow up with emotional freedom instead of suppression. Now we teach the teachers. Now we heal the healers. Now we build a galaxy where intelligence and emotion work together instead of fighting each other. The crowd was indeed stunned, but not by violence or conflict. They were stunned by the discovery that the greatest strength any civilization could possess was the courage to feel, to heal, and to help others do the same. The Great Healing had begun, and it would transform the galaxy forever. In the audience, Marcus Webb watched the woman who had once been his maid become the most important person in galactic history. He thought about that morning 6 months ago when he had almost fired Maya for saving his daughter. Now Maya Johnson was saving everyone's children, and the entire galaxy was better for it. The crowd remained stunned long after the formal ceremony ended, not by what they had witnessed, but by what they had learned about the true meaning of strength, civilization. 2 weeks had passed since Maya first set foot on the Zephyrian ship. Now she was there every day, working with young aliens who were learning to heal from generations of emotional suppression. The changes were remarkable and troubling to the older Zephyrians. High Commander Thexran called an emergency meeting with the Galactic Confederation Council. Representatives from 12 different alien species gathered in the main conference chamber of the command ship. Maya was invited to attend as Earth's first interspecies psychology consultant. Fellow commanders, Thexran began, we face an unprecedented situation. The humans have demonstrated capabilities that challenge our understanding of civilization itself. Admiral Corks, then, of the Hegemony Fleet leaned forward. His species looked like giant insects with crystal-like shells. Explain these capabilities, Thexran. Maya stood up. She wore a simple blue dress that Marcus Webb had bought for her, but she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had found her true purpose. Honorable representatives, Maya said, humans have developed sophisticated techniques for healing psychological trauma. We've learned that emotional health is essential for any civilization to reach its full potential. Emotional indulgence weakens military effectiveness, growled General Vexmar of the warrior clans. His people were known throughout the galaxy for their fierce fighting ability. Actually, Dr. Rodriguez said, standing beside Maya, Our research shows the opposite. Emotionally healthy individuals perform better under stress, make clearer decisions, and show greater loyalty to their communities. Thexran activated a holographic display showing the changes in his young crew members over the past 2 weeks. Observe the data. Productivity among our youth has increased 40%. Problem-solving ability has improved 30%. Most significantly, their loyalty and dedication to duty has actually strengthened, not weakened. The alien representatives studied the data with surprise. They had expected emotional expression to lead to weakness and disorder. How do you explain these improvements? Asked Counselor Zithara of the academic collective. Maya stepped forward. When individuals are allowed to process their emotions healthily, they have more mental energy available for other tasks. Suppressing feelings takes enormous psychological effort that could be better used elsewhere. Katie Webb had been sitting quietly in the corner, but now she spoke up. May I say something? The alien commanders looked at the 16-year-old human girl with curiosity. The young Zephyrians weren't weak before, Katie said. They were using all their strength just to survive emotionally. When Maya taught them how to heal, that strength became available for other things. Sub-Commander Zara Lynn, who had been learning Maya's techniques, added her own observations. The human approach doesn't eliminate discipline or duty. It provides a foundation that makes both more effective. Admiral Corks then made a clicking sound that indicated skepticism in his species. You ask us to believe that allowing weakness improves strength. I ask you to expand your definition of strength, Maya replied. True strength includes the ability to face difficult emotions, process them, and move forward with wisdom gained from the experience. Demonstrate, General Vexmar demanded. Show us this supposed strength. Maya looked at Katie, who nodded. Katie, would you be willing to share your connection with the representatives? Katie closed her eyes and reached out with her unusual sensitivity. Within moments, she was receiving emotional signals from the young members of all the alien species present. Her face became troubled. They're all hurting, she whispered. Every single species here has young ones who are carrying pain they're not allowed to express. She began speaking in different voices, channeling the suppressed emotions of alien youth from across the galaxy. We train until our bodies break, but we cannot say we are tired, she said in the guttural tones of the warrior clans. We memorize endless facts, but we cannot admit when we feel confused, she continued in the precise accent of the academic collective. We serve with perfect obedience, but we cannot ask why our lives feel empty, she finished in the harmonic tones of the hegemony fleet. The chamber fell silent. Every representative was staring at Katie with a mixture of shock and recognition. Impossible, General Vexmar said, but his voice lacked conviction. Our young warriors are proud of their training. Pride and pain can exist together, Maya said gently. Your warriors are incredibly strong, but that strength comes at a cost that doesn't have to be paid. Admiral Corks then was making rapid calculations on his personal device. If our youth are operating at reduced efficiency due to psychological stress, the implications for our entire civilization are significant. Every species here could benefit from emotional healing techniques, Dr. Rodriguez said. Humans aren't special because we feel emotions. We're unusual because we've learned to work with emotions instead of against them. Counselor Zithara leaned forward with interest. What would such training involve? Maya smiled. It starts with the revolutionary idea that young beings should be taught how to understand and express their feelings in healthy ways. And if adults need to learn these skills too, Zara Leon added, then they learn alongside the young ones. Thexran stood up. I propose a formal trial. Each species will send volunteers to learn human psychological techniques. We will measure the results objectively. Agreed, said Admiral Corks then. But the trial must include military effectiveness measures. Of course, Maya said. Emotional health should improve performance in all areas, including military service. General Vexmar was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. My youngest son begins military training next year. He has shown signs of what you call anxiety. If your techniques could help him, They can, Maya said with confidence, but you'll need to be willing to learn alongside him. Over the next hour, each species representative shared similar stories. Young ones who struggled with the rigid demands of their societies. Promising individuals who had been damaged by systems that prioritized conformity over well-being. Katie sat in the middle of it all, occasionally translating the emotional needs she was receiving from alien youth across the galaxy. Her gift was revealing a universal truth. Intelligence and emotion were not opposites, but partners in creating strong, healthy civilizations. There is one more thing, Maya said, as the meeting neared its end. Human children have been affected by all this suppressed alien pain. We have young people on Earth who have been having nightmares and anxiety attacks since first contact. You suggest a shared responsibility? Thexran said thoughtfully. I suggest a shared opportunity, Maya replied. If we work together to heal, all our young ones, both human and alien children, will benefit. The representatives looked at each other, realizing they were facing a decision that would reshape galactic civilization. They could continue with their traditional methods and accept the hidden costs, or they could learn from humanity's approach to emotional wellness. Admiral Corks then spoke first. The Hegemony Fleet will participate in this trial. The academic. Collective agrees, said Counselor Zithara. General Vexmar was the last to decide. The warrior clans will send volunteers, but if this weakens our people, it won't, Katie said with absolute certainty. Your people will become stronger than you ever imagined possible. Maya looked around the chamber at representatives from civilizations spanning the galaxy. A black woman from Detroit who had been working as a maid was about to become the teacher of worlds. The greatest revelation in galactic history was beginning, the discovery that true strength came not from suppressing emotion but from learning to heal.